Okay, so there's a lot of people out there who think that Generation Z are very lazy. Okay, well, I'm here to tell you that they're actually not. Well, at least the vast majority of them, anyway. They're not entitled, they're not broken, they're just simply trying to do the math. And let's face it, the math just does not work. The system that my generation promised them is simply economically impossible. Okay, and they are the first generation to come out and say, enough is enough. This isn't working. Something has got to change. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why it's economically impossible for the Gen Zs to get a foot in the door or ahead of the game, and what they're doing about it and what you can do about it too. So if that sounds good, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We can crack on. Okay, so I'm in my 40s. I've had many stable jobs. I've lived through lots of different economic shifts, and I've watched the cost of living crisis completely spiral out of control, okay, whilst wages have barely moved. But this is the thing. My generation could make it work. We could stretch our paychecks, over that month and still have a little bit at the end of it. We got a foot on the ladder of the property ladder before house prices got completely out of control. And the numbers, however tight, they still added up. But for Gen Z, they don't. Okay, they're not even close. When an entire generation realizes that it's pretty much mathematically impossible to get ahead in life or even keep up, they don't follow it. Okay, they'll go and do something else. They'll not because they're lazy, but because they're rational about it. They've got no choice. Okay, so let's talk about the cost of living crisis, because it's something that haunts us every single day. I know it haunts me. I think about it every time I go to the shops. I think about it every time we get a bill through the door. Okay, it's depressing, it's crap, but unfortunately, it's real life. Okay, so let's talk numbers then. In 1980, the average rent was about 25% of the median income, and today it's closer to 40% and up to 50% in most cities. And that's even before we talk about utilities, bills, socializing, and just general other expenses. Well, I'll just get a college degree, I hear you say. Well, in the 1980s, you could afford to have a part-time job and still pay for your tuition fees, even with a minimum wage job. And today's average student debt, you're looking at 30 to 40,000, okay? $30,000 to $40,000. Now, that's a deposit for a house, except with this, you don't own anything. Healthcare, transportation, and groceries, everything has exploded in price. Meanwhile, wages are pretty much the same as they were in the year 2000. Now, that's 25 years of inflation that's been added onto that you've got to try and somehow pay for. So you can sort of understand why you meet a lot of seriously pissed off Gen Zs who can't even afford the basic living expenses of life. So that brings me on to, what are they doing about it? Well, I can tell you what they're doing about it. They're leaving. Okay, not all of them, but a large amount of them, and it's probably a lot more than you think. Gen Z are moving to places where their dollars actually stretch. Now, I'm talking about places like Portugal, Eastern Europe, Cambodia and Thailand, Indonesia, places like this. Places where rent is $500 and not $2,000. Places where $3,000 a month is comfortable and it's no longer poverty. COVID and remote work made this entirely possible. Now ask yourself this. Would you stay somewhere where your entire paycheck evaporates on rent? No, I didn't think so. These Gen Zs are known as digital nomads or remote workers, and they're absolutely smashing it. Okay, I follow a lot of them on X. These people did everything right, everything that their parents told them to do. But when they realized that there was no way to get ahead of the system, they decided to leave the system entirely. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. It's exactly what I would do if I was 20 years younger and single. If the game is rigged, then you just go and find another game. Okay, so what about the ones who are staying and not leaving? Well, the ones who have jobs, many of them have second jobs. Many of them still live at home with their parents and will probably live at home with their parents for a very long time. But a lot of other people, they're building, okay? They're building their own businesses. They're building for the future simply because they have no other option. And many more are turning to content creation, selling digital products, and freelancing and consulting, all because a single income stream is no longer enough. In today's world, you now need multiple skills. Okay, we no longer live in a world where you can specialize in one occupation, which will see you through for 30, 40 years. Okay, you need to be a marketer, you need to be a designer, you need to be a strategist, you need to be a writer. Okay, Gen Z are teaching themselves absolutely everything because they have to. They're learning faster, they're adapting quicker, they're building a wider skill set than any other generation in history. Not because they want to or love the hustle, but because of it's pretty much survival of the fittest. And when the traditional path just simply doesn't pay enough, then, well, you've got to form your own path. Okay, so let's talk about what the older generations miss. We could specialize in things. Okay, if you wanted to be an accountant, you were an accountant for 30, 40 years. If you wanted to be in coaching, then you were a coach for 30, 40 years. Okay, that's what we did. You specialized in something and then you stuck it out for pretty much 30 or 40 years. Well, Gen Z can't do that. Okay, the landscape is just evolving too quickly. With the introduction of AI, jobs are going quicker than ever before. Okay, this generation has got to be adaptable. That's the only way that you survive in this game. You have to have multiple skills, because if one industry goes under, in which it will happen, it will be a case probably very, very soon where an entire industry is AI driven, then those people have got to go somewhere. Okay, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Gen Z are more prepared for that situation than us millennials or the baby boomers are, because we've not grown up in a multi-skilled era. Like I say, we all grew up in the specialized era where you did one thing and you were very good at it. But what happens if that one thing is no longer needed? Okay, it's replaced by robots. You're screwed. A lot of people my age are currently licking the boss's boots, hoping that it's going to save their job in the future, or make them one of the last ones out the door when AI finally comes and takes their jobs. All of this while Gen Zs are currently building a portfolio of skills online. Some of them are copywriters, but can also edit YouTube videos, content creation, SEO and graphic design, and coding and community management. And they're not doing this because they're scattered or disorganized. They're hedging for the future. Okay, they need backup, they need options, they need to be adaptable for when the time comes. That's very sensible. Yes, and a lot of them are starting their own businesses, but these businesses often are not multi-billion-dollar companies. These are still are very small, lean companies where it has one or two or three employers max, and it's not glamorous, but it is practical. And more often than not, it pays them a lot more than what they would get in one wage, and maybe even two. Okay, so what's the takeaway here? Well, I think I've proved that Gen Z are not lazy. Of course, you're going to get some lazy ones in there. We got plenty of lazy millennials. Trust me. It's more of we've let them down. The current system has let this generation down. Okay, the system that my generation and the generation before me made, or accelerated into its demise, we've let them down. We've screwed it up, and they're now having to pay the consequences for that. So they're having to be adaptable. They're having to learn multiple skills, and they're having to achieve and get multiple incomes. Okay, this is what my channel is about. I'm all about growing multiple incomes, because I believe we are going to be entering a world where you're going to need more than one income. Okay, that's just how it is. That's the way the world's going. So you need to be prepared for it. There's a link in the description to my own personal website that launched yesterday. Okay, there's going to be a lot of resources on there for you to check out to hopefully help you build your multiple income streams. Okay, like I currently have. And I can tell you now, it's a huge weight off my mind, especially the fact that I'm not doing a huge amount of extra hours. With the right systems in place and with the right knowledge, you can build your multiple income streams. Okay, and this is not a get rich quick scheme. Okay, that does not exist. I'm not a guru saying that you're going to be filthy rich in 90 days. Okay, again, that doesn't happen. But what I'm here, my channel is about, is to help you in a realistic way achieve multiple incomes over, over the case of a year or 18 months. Okay, something that is achievable. So again, hit the like and subscribe button. Also, drop us a comment in the comment section. Would love to hear your thoughts on the video or what's going on in your life. Are you living overseas? Are you building multiple income streams? Got your own business? Okay, everything's valuable information. Would love to hear what's going on in your life. Also, there's a video above. Okay, it's a great video if you're feeling stuck in your career. Great video to watch. It's a video that resonates with my situation. Okay, and how I managed to feel unstuck, even though I am still working in the same job. I no longer feel stuck because I'm doing something about it. So check that video out, and I shall see you all very, very soon.